Yeah, it's all right. Leave the first picture on, please. Who turned it to the second one? Yeah, there. Now, can you see that this is as hard as this table, only it has been bulldozed with a ripper to break it up in the first place? What is the most important ingredient in soil that is to be biologically active? What is the most important ingredient?
Organic matter. Organic matter.
What?
Organic matter.
Organic
Matter.
matter. Okay, what else?
Carbon.
What?
Speak loud.
Carbon.
Speak
Carbon.
loud.
Carbon. Well, that is
The
the
same.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most important for that to work is air. If there is no air, you can't live for more than a few seconds. You can live without water for a few days. You can live without food for weeks. But air is the most important, or there will be no living environment for worms or microbes, for any biological activity. Now, in that soil, no air can get in. It is like this. And what is the second most important ingredient?
Water.
Water, that's right. Now, from which country are you?
Jordan. This is the third time
Jordan. Jordan. Now, we have had recently 3 dissertations made by one of our universities comparing the water intake on biodynamic farms, big acreages, and identical soil neighbors. And in the first hour, this type of soil, no water will get in at all. Yeah. In the first hour, we, on our soils, take in 14 times the amount of nothing. And on our farms, and Maria has that on her film material, visiting a lot of our farms, we never see, after big rains, we never see water lying on the paddocks because it goes in. On the neighboring farms, there's always water lying. Now, we have exact measurements of that, and I asked the professor to supply me with, you see, they just do that test, and they never see the total picture. It's just always a particle approach. So I asked him to work out in the catchment area of 2 contributaries to our main Murray River with a certain amount of rain, one rain, if all the catchment area were biodynamic, how much would flow in? And if all the catchment area were conventional, how much would flow in? And that amounted to an enormous amount of liters, and have the exact figures. And in fact, for an irrigation area about as big as the Po, 400 by 200 kilometers, it amounted to the total amount of irrigation water required for one season. One heavy rain difference. And now in a river like the Danube, where there are flood marks of many centuries back, the water you see flowing in the river would be about 10 to 20% of the total river system, which goes up to 200 kilometers to the side with veins connecting to the river. The Po at the moment, the beginning of the summer irrigation time, is empty. There's been no rain for only 1 month. If it were like that at the end of the irrigation system, I would accept it. But at the beginning, I don't know what they're going to use for irrigation. The river is in pools, it's not flowing. And so are quite a few other rivers up there. Now, the reason is that water can't get to the vein system. It is flowing off and causing floods. We have so-called rivers inland in Australia, which are only flood channels. When there is some monsoon rain further north, then it comes down the river, and it's the only time there's water, and then it is a flood coming down the river. There is no vein system. Well, the European rivers and the world rivers on the big flat areas where corporations farm, and almost in America hardly any private farmers anymore, and in other countries governments stimulating big investment of money instead of supporting smaller farmers who have a heart for the soil and will look after the soil. They give the money to big corporations. And well, what I'm now describing as a huge problem of water has not been recognized, and it is for the near future and a longer term future much more serious than just chemical pollution, which is bad enough. If there is, as water is the limiting factor of production, and what are the Po people going to do with all their fruit trees and all their vegetables? They supply a lot. Latina is very lucky. It has the mountains at the back, high enough to have snow and ice and a lot of rain, and it goes down and underground. It fills the underground, what are they called? Yes.
Reservoir.
Yeah, well, the big tanks underground.
Reservoir. Reservoir. Reservoir.
My eyes and my ears are older than I.
Do you mean the reservoir?
No, there is a word for
Table water.
Table.
yeah.
Fossil water.
Yeah, well now, they are automatically filled every year, and you see continuous pumping and irrigation in Latina. They won't run out of water. That's the luckiest part of Europe for water. Good, so this is a huge problem that governments have to address, and it must be put to governments. They can't run away from it, or they will. There are the big floods we have had this year everywhere, and this is the reason for that, and it's the reason why the Po is empty now. We have farms on flat land that came later, maybe 10 or 20 years ago. After 10 years, small streams that are connected to the vein system of those flats have started running in a drought time, where for 80 years there has been no water in summer. It's the opposite operation. I wanted to first describe that. Now, I will start with the actual lecture. Or we can just look at the other pictures, yes, just to give you a better vision. I gave Ricardo picture 1 and 2, or let's take the vines first, 5 and 6.
Which unit before?
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6. Now, they are 2 vineyards in Burgundy, in France. One is biodynamic, one is conventional. This is the biodynamic one, and you see very healthy vines. I would have to describe that separately, and you see a soil that is as though it was hand dug with a fork. It is in lumps that are grown by microbes and worms, and you can see it would take water in. Now the next picture is 1 meter away. Yeah. Now you look at this. First of all, the vines are sick. Secondly, here is erosion, and old erosion, and here is the same soil as 1 meter apart, and you can see that soil is like those big lumps before. Water can't get in. Now, this is partly caused by